And now, I'd like to introduce you to my dear friend, Jane Green, someone who I deeply respect and admire. Jane is a New York Times best-selling author 15 times over, and her 16th novel, Saving Grace, was recently called a page-turner by People magazine, chosen as an Amazon Book of the Month, and will no doubt be another bestseller. Jane's courage in her own battle against Lyme and her advocacy for better awareness makes her our Starlight Award recipient tonight. Jane, you want to come up and accept your award?
Well, I feel incredibly honored to have been given this honor and slightly unworthy, but thank you so much. Thank you to the Alliance, thank you to Ryan, to Amy. I have to also thank Serena Sarnoff-Wells, our cousin who's on the committee, because she first introduced the Alliance to me, and my neurologist, who is not here, Dr. Amaram Katz, but I'm quite certain that I wouldn't be here if it weren't for him. As you can probably hear, I'm not from around these parts. And growing up in central London, I never thought that this was something I'd have to worry about. The only wildlife I ever even thought about were drunk men coming out of the pub on a Saturday night. And I moved to Westport 14 years ago, and I fell in love. I was completely enchanted. There was a beach, and there were trees, and look, there were deer in our backyard. It was the most magical thing I'd ever seen. And then my story is much the same as many of the people in this room and many of the people you've heard from tonight. I started to get sick 4 years ago, and I had 2 years of misdiagnoses that ranged from fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome to bipolar disorder, which saw me on antipsychotics for 18 months and unable to get out of bed for 2 years. And then came all of the autoimmune syndromes, Hashimoto's and peripheral neuropathy and Raynaud's syndrome and hormonal hell. Did I thank my husband? Because if not, he is the one that I need to thank most of all. Thank you for staying with me. Chronic migraines, which have been and continue to be a real struggle, and what was the last thing? Memory loss. There are some things that I have learned along the way, and I say this standing before you as somebody who actually is fairly healthy today. I'm still dealing with the post-Lyme disease syndrome. I'm still dealing with all the autoimmune syndromes. But today I have far more good days than bad. What I've learned is that I had to be my own advocate. I couldn't look to any one doctor, even my neurologist who I adore, to make me better. There was no one pill, no one shot that was going to make me better. I had to take, for me, a holistic approach, and I tried everything, and some of them worked, and some of them didn't. I believe that Hippocrates was right when he said, "Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food." I cut out sugar, carbohydrates, dairy, and alcohol. Basically everything that makes life worthwhile. However, I have to tell you that it did make a tremendous difference to my health. It was probably the single best thing I did. There's a lovely apocryphal story that I like to tell of a woman who pulls into a gas station in Greenwich, Connecticut, and she says to the attendant, "I'm moving here with my family next week. Tell me something. How's Greenwich? How will I find it? What's it like?" He said, "Well, what's the last place like that you've lived?" And she says, "Oh, it's awful. The people are rude and they're entitled and superior and everyone's narcissistic and self-absorbed." He says, "Well, I think you'll find Greenwich is much the same." And a couple of days later, a different woman pulls in, And she says to him, I'm moving here with my family next week. How will I find it? What's Greenwich like? He said, well, what's the last place like you've lived? She says, it's wonderful. We've met the greatest people in the world. They are warm and they are kind, and we know all our neighbors and they give back. And he says, well, I think you'll find that Greenwich is much the same. And what that little tale, thank you. What that tale taught me is that life is where you look. There is a psychology professor called Robert Emmons, who's at the University of Southern California, and he says this: gratitude is a sustainable approach to life that can be freely chosen for oneself. It is choosing to focus on blessings rather than burdens, on gifts rather than curses, and people report that it transforms their lives. Well, my life has been transformed by Lyme disease, and yet, through it all, I have managed to keep writing my books. I have raised 5 beautiful children. I have a wonderful husband and a really full life. So I'm just so grateful to be standing here today and grateful for all the work that the Global Lyme Alliance is doing. Thank you.